affirmations feel like they should work, right? You say something positive, you believe it into existence, and your life suddenly transforms. It's this beautiful idea that's been sold to us for decades. But what actually no one is talking about is for people with imposter syndrome and low self esteem, affirmations can actually make things worse. And there's actual research to back this up. So today I'm going to talk you through exactly why this happens. And more importantly, I'm introducing you to the framework that actually rewires how you see yourself at a deeper level. So if you've ever tried affirmations and you felt like they weren't working, or worse, if they made you feel worse about yourself, this is going to make everything click into place. So let me start with what happens inside your brain when you try to use affirmations. Now, when you tell yourself something that you don't actually believe, your brain doesn't just ignore it. It doesn't politely nod and move on. Your brain actively works against you. Now, this is what I found really interesting. Okay, there's this fascinating research from Carnegie Mellon University that found that self-affirmations can actually increase stress responses in people with low self-esteem. So if you just think about that for a second, all right, the very thing that you're doing to feel better is actually making your nervous system more stressed. Now, why is this? Because there's a gap between what you're saying and what you actually believe. And your brain notices that gap immediately. It's called cognitive dissonance. And it's like your brain is screaming, wait, that's not true. You know that's not true. And I want to give you a real example because this is where it gets really practical. So I worked with a female founder a few years ago, and she was doing everything right on paper. Every single morning she'd wake up and she'd say her affirmations. I am confident and worthy. I am a powerful leader. I deserve success. And she did this for 6 months straight. But what actually happened was that every time she went to raise her prices with a client, that voice in her head showed up and said, who do you think you are? You don't deserve this. Or every time she was invited to speak at an event, she'd think about declining because that imposter voice was louder than any affirmation she'd ever said. Those affirmations never touched that real belief underneath. They just were words floating on the surface while the foundation still cracked. And that's exactly what I mean when I say affirmations are like, it's a bit like putting a fresh coat of paint on a house with a cracked foundation. All right. From the outside, it looks better, it looks shiny and new, but the structure underneath is still broken. So it keeps cracking through. Right. You paint over it again and again, and you're wondering why nothing's changing. You're wondering why you're not seeing the transformation that you expected. And it's because you're not working at the level where the real problem lives. You're working at the surface level, and the real work actually happens deeper than that. So let me tell you what I've discovered through years of working with people who've struggled with this exact thing. The real transformation, it doesn't happen through repetition of words that you don't believe yet. It happens by finding where that limiting belief actually came from in the first place. It happens by understanding why your brain decided that you weren't worthy, or that you weren't capable, or that you didn't deserve success. And the truth is that your brain didn't just randomly decide this, all right? There's a reason, there's an origin story to every limiting belief that you carry. Perhaps it came from something someone said to you when you were young. Maybe it came from a failure that you experienced and the story you created about what that failure meant about you. Or perhaps it came from watching someone that you love struggle and deciding that if they can do it, then you can do it either. And whatever the origin is, that's where the real work begins. Because once you understand where the belief came from, you can actually do something about it. Right? You can question whether it's even true. You can see it for what it actually is. It's just a story that your brain created to protect you at some point, but now it's a story that's no longer serving you. And in my work, what we do is we find that root belief. All right? We get really clear where it came from and why it's been running in the background of your mind. And then, this is the most important part, right? We don't just try to cover it up with positive words. We actually get rid of it. We extract it. And then we reinstall new beliefs, right? We rewire new beliefs in at that foundation level, not just at the surface level. Right? This is belief level work. This is the stuff that actually sticks because you're not fighting against your own brain anymore. You're working with your brain to create new neural pathways, new associations, new ways of seeing yourself that actually feel true from the inside out. And the research backs this up as well. There was a University of Waterloo study from 2009 that looked at this exact phenomenon. They found that when people with low self esteem were given positive affirmations that contradicted their self view, it actually led to worse moods and lower self esteem afterwards. But what's really interesting is that when they started with smaller, more believable statements, statements that created a bridge between where they were and where they wanted to be, that's when things changed, right? The brain could actually accept it. There was no cognitive dissonance, there was no resistance. And from that place of acceptance, that's where real change became possible. So if you've been spinning your wheels with affirmations, or if you've been saying positive things every morning and you still feel like an imposter in the afternoon, just know it's not because you're not trying hard enough. Right? It's nothing to do with the fact that you don't believe in yourself enough, but it's because you've been working at the wrong level. Right? You've been trying to paint over the cracks instead of fixing the foundation. And actually, once you understand how this works, once you start doing the belief level work, right, and you get down to the root cause instead of just the surface level affirmations, that's when things shift, right? Your confidence can feel more real. Your sense of worthiness becomes something that you feel, not just something that you're trying to convince yourself of. And your success, it stops feeling like luck and actually starts feeling like something you actually deserve. And this is what I want for you. I want you to experience what it feels like to move through the world without that imposter voice constantly questioning that you're right to be there. I want you to know deep down in your bones that you are worthy and you are capable. Nothing to do with you saying it 1,000 times in the mirror, but actually because you've rewired the beliefs that were holding you back. Now, if this resonates with you, I would love you to subscribe to this channel, right? So you don't miss the next video where we're going to dive in even deeper into exactly how to identify your limiting beliefs and start rewiring them. So hit that subscribe button and I'll see you in the next video.